Behind this screen of tomatoes, it's about to cover this whole trellis here with some snake beans, and I'm actually doing a different type of pruning on these trellises. But today's video is about pruning or not pruning. Do you prune? Do you pick out the suckers, or do you just let them go wild? Well, I'm doing a bit of everything here, plus one little system that I'd like to show you towards the end of the video. It's a little trick that I worked out to keep one of the pests away. And if you may have noticed it, if you've been watching the show. Anyway, to prune or not to prune, to pluck or not to pluck, to stake or not to stake. Love to hear what you've got to say. Watch as we walk around the garden and show you all the different ways that I'm growing tomatoes. Some of them are just going wild, some of them are going crazy, some I take care of. Lots of different reasons why. Let's get stuck into it. And look, I believe there's no right or wrong answer here, but it's going to create a bit of controversy in the comments, I know for sure. Now, I've got two tomato plants growing here side by side. They've both come up on their own. They've sowed through my compost because I'm always making compost, and occasionally the tomatoes get into the worm castings, into worm farms and things, and end up into the compost system. Now, both of these have been pruned, and as you can see, I'm just about to pull a little sucker out from the side there, and I'm going to let them grow right up. And I may not keep these plants. I'm going to keep the best plants because I've got lots of them that are the most productive, the tastiest, and less pest problems. But these look pretty good so far. I've got little cherry tomatoes on them. Really happy with the progress. And I'm staking them up on these poles and let them get to around about yay high, about my height, where I can reach them. And then I might decide what to do with them then. But they are being pruned and plucked. Now, I don't do it with every plant, but what I want to do is take you up to the trellis plant and show you what I've done there. Another little way that I'm actually pruning and moving tomatoes around to get the most production in my backyard. Let's go, shall we? So it's a bit hard to see me because I'm in behind this trellis garden. I'm not in jail, tomato garden jail. I'm actually built this with really good tomato stakes and dog wire. And at the top I've just got some plastic wire that I found around the place, and I'm building this to grow really big and large. Now the thing is, what I've done with this is something very different. I've got about 3 or 4 central leaders all splitting out, all going across and being esplanared across this and then up to the top where it'll spill over the sides, and I'll be able to get lots and lots of fruit off it. I'll also be able to keep a lot of airflow in here, allowing the air to go through and keep off any fungal problems, keep an eye on pests, and also the birds can come and land on here and grab a grub and things like that. So yeah, I've esplanared it like a vase going out, and it's doing absolutely wonderful. Really happy with it, and lots of cherry tomatoes on the way. So this tomato here I'm doing differently. I'm actually creating one central leader, picking out and plucking out all these little guys until it reaches to nearly to the top. And once it gets nearly to the top, I will let a central leader, another central leader come out and split into 2 directions. And that way it'll run along the top of the posts and it will spill over, and the currawongs can't get to it because they were stealing so many cherry tomatoes last year. And I thought, hey, if they can't land on it and they can't grab them, they won't get any, because they seem to love red fruit and they come around the same time as the bungalows are in fruit. So that's it for that one. It's going up, splitting out and creating 2 directions, and then it can just do whatever it wants. It can just go wild up there and produce a lot of fruit and hang down. So you need to keep watching the show, because I'm going to show you that later on in the future when this tomato garden really starts going. So anyway, before we get into it any further, what are you doing? Are you tipping? Are you pruning? Are you not sure? Are you going single layers? Really depends on the type of the plant too. What do you reckon, guys? Mini plants like those little ones. Now let me know if you know what type I'm talking about, determinate or indeterminate, down below. Leave your answers down there, guys, because I want to know what you think. Let's go out the front. I'll show you something that I'm doing there that I just was talking about. A really good example. I'm filming right off in the distance here because I've got this massive sweet potato pile that's going bonkers, man. It's got to be all harvested, dried out, and fed to the chickens and fed to us and all that type of stuff. It's just crazy here. Anyway, look, here's the example of it. You can see one central leader tomato running up next to the worm farm and splitting out into two directions here. One's going to come this way along this pole, and then this one will run along this way along this pole. But I've got another tomato here. So two different types of cherry tomatoes, but they're absolutely firing next to the worm farms and really happy with the results so far. I just wish this was taller because it needs to go a lot bigger yet, and it's going to start spilling over. And so that's why I've started those ones out the back that are over 8 to 10 feet high, because that's the size that I'm getting them to once they get to that size. It's just absolutely crazy when you feed them good compost, guys, and get the nutrition right. So have you answered the question to prune or not to prune? What are your thoughts on it? Before I talked about plants, indeterminate and determinates. Now, indeterminate tomato will keep growing in a long vine, and it'll go right through the whole season until you get to the frost time or the cooler period, where it just kicks back and does the ghost or gives up its life. And I like them for pruning them and getting them to a top of a pinnacle and then allowing them to spread out like I'm doing here. Now, I'm not saying that every way that I do it is right. It's just what's right for me. It works great for me in my space. Now, determinate plants are generally smaller. You would grow them in pots, and they can be anything from 30 centimeters to a few feet high. And I prefer to leave them most of the time to just bush out and do their thing. I think they're a great little productive plant as long as they've got 1 or 2 stakes or a tomato cage to hold them together and let them go. So if you're not sure about what type of tomato that you've got at your place, whether it's a determinate or indeterminate, check out on the seed pack, maybe look it up online, and then make a decision on what you're going to do. Or just trial and play around. If you've got lots of plants, you can just do what's right for you. Now, I've got plants that are just sprawling across the ground, just going wild, and I'm still getting tomatoes off them because we just haven't got round to them. They've just self-sowed around the place, and we just pick them off the ground basically. But I don't think that's the best way to go. It's really easy and lazy way to do it, and if you're getting tomatoes and you haven't got time, then hats off to you. Do it like that. It's still a cool way to grow tomatoes. Tomatoes do naturally sprawl anyway, because that's why they throw little roots off their stalks and stems where their hairs are, but that's a whole different video, right? This is all about the great debate. What's best for you? What works for you? What do you reckon's the best thing to do? Put your tips and tricks down in the comments box down below, like even striking a tomato cutting in the water. And what do you do then? Do you prune it? Do you let it go wild? What are you doing with your tomatoes at your place? Love to hear how you're growing on. It's the great debate, the great tomato pick or prune or pluck debate. Looking forward to your comments in the comments box down below. Remember, you can get 10% off on all Aussie Garden products and save a few bucks through my link in the description. All right, have a great day. Happy gardening. Here comes a flexi hand. We'll see you at the next video real soon. Bye for now.